Have you ever felt that quiet sting when someone's tone cuts deeper than words, when a glance makes you feel smaller than you are? Disrespect rarely arrives like a storm. It seeps in like slow rain, eroding your sense of worth drop by drop. The Stoics knew this battle well, the fight to stay calm when dignity is tested. Today we uncover how to hold your ground, not with anger, but with quiet, immovable strength. Let's step into the first lesson. Picture this: two people standing face to face, one quick to judge, the other quietly observing. One sees flaws to condemn, the other sees humanity to understand. Which one do you think holds more power? Compassion, in the Stoic sense, is not soft or sentimental. It is steel wrapped in warmth. It is wisdom in motion. It is the rare ability to look at the suffering or faults of others, not with pity, but with understanding. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Whenever you're about to find fault with someone, ask yourself what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize." That single reflection can change the entire direction of your heart. Judgment turns into humility. Blame softens into connection. We live in a world that worships being right. Everyone wants to prove, to correct, to dominate the moment. But the Stoic learns something subtler, that compassion is not submission. It's command. It begins quietly, from within. True compassion begins quietly, within. It's not self-forgiveness repeated as comfort, but as clarity, the courage to see yourself honestly before judging another. I remember watching a friend lose his temper at a stranger once, a misunderstanding over a parking space. His anger was instant, pure fire. But later, when he cooled down, he whispered, "I wasn't really mad at him. I was mad at myself." That's where Stoicism begins, in the recognition that our reactions often say more about us than about others. When you forgive yourself for being human, you start to see others through the same lens. Their harsh words reveal their wounds. Their coldness reflects their confusion. Suddenly, your anger dissolves, replaced by something quieter, understanding. True compassion, then, is action without pride. It lives in small moments. A gentle word when silence would be easier. Patience when irritation is justified. A simple act of generosity that asks for nothing in return. These are not grand gestures. They are ripples that soften the edges of the world. Seneca once said, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." Remember that. The moment you choose patience over pettiness, you elevate yourself, not above others, but above the chaos. Compassion disarms conflict. It rebuilds what anger destroys. It turns even enemies into mirrors, reflecting lessons back to you. But here's the paradox. Compassion does not make you fragile. It makes you unshakable. When you master your emotions, no one can use them against you. When you understand others deeply, they lose the power to wound you superficially. The one who embodies compassion commands respect without ever demanding it. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, pause. Look past their behavior and into their struggle. Not to excuse it, but to free yourself from it. That is how strength becomes silent, and silence becomes strength. In the end, compassion is not merely a virtue, it is a force, one that transforms how you see others and how others see you. Let it begin within you, and from there it will ripple outward, shaping a world where respect flows naturally. Now, as we move deeper, let's explore another key to Stoic strength, the power of speech. Because the way you speak can either build your world or break it. Moving into the second chapter, picture this: a crowded room, voices colliding like waves, everyone eager to speak, but few willing to listen. And then, amid the noise, one person speaks with calm precision. Every word lands with weight. Every pause commands attention. You feel it, that quiet authority. That is the power of right speech. The Stoics understood that words are not mere sounds. They are the architects of perception. They build or destroy your reputation. They decide whether others trust you or dismiss you. Epictetus said, "First learn the meaning of what you say, and then speak." Because speech, to the Stoic, is not just expression, it's a mirror of your soul. Let me tell you something simple. Truth needs no decoration. When you speak honestly, your words carry a force that manipulation can never match. Imagine this. You're in an important meeting. You've made a mistake. The easy instinct is to hide it, to cover the flaw. But deception, even small, corrodes credibility. If instead you say, "That was my error, and here's how I'll fix it," the room quiets. Suspicion fades. What replaces it is respect. Truth, even when uncomfortable, makes you untouchable. But truth alone is not enough. Without kindness, truth can become a weapon. The Stoics spoke of reason guided by virtue, not sharp words born of anger. When you speak, speak to heal, not to harm. Offer clarity, not cuts. There's strength in gentleness, and gentleness in strength. When you choose calm reason over harsh reaction, people feel it. They may not agree with you, but they will remember your composure. And in that memory, respect takes root. Then there's purpose. So many talk to fill silence, to avoid discomfort, to prove they exist. But meaningless chatter drains presence. It scatters your energy. A Stoic asks before speaking, "Does this add value?" If not, silence is the higher choice. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Let silence be your general rule, or say only what is necessary and in few words." You see, silence is not absence, it's gravity. It draws others in. I once saw a man in a heated argument. The other shouted, insulted, provoked. The man said nothing. He just looked at him, steady and calm. The silence cut deeper than any retort. It wasn't weakness. It was mastery. When you don't rush to defend your ego, your presence becomes heavier, like stone against wind. Each word you release is a decision, to build or to break, to rise or to sink. Think before you speak. Ask yourself, will this bring light or shadow? Will it elevate or divide? The world doesn't respect the loudest voice. It respects the one that speaks with intention. So master your words, and you will master perception. Speak truth, but lace it with grace. Use words to lift, not to wound. And when words are not needed, let silence speak for you. Because sometimes saying nothing says everything. Now, as we move forward, let's explore the next virtue, mindfulness, the art of staying composed in a world built to shake you. Advancing to the third chapter, imagine standing in a storm, wind tearing through the air, voices rising, tempers flaring, and yet, within you, there is silence. The kind of silence that doesn't come from weakness, but from power. That is presence. That is mindfulness, as the Stoics lived it. Some command respect in silence. Others chase it and never catch it. The difference isn't luck, status, or force. It's presence. The calm gravity of someone who doesn't get pulled into the chaos around them. Mindfulness in Stoic philosophy isn't about escaping the world. It's about standing fully in it. Unshaken. To be mindful is to be awake to each moment without being enslaved by it. Marcus Aurelius often practiced this in solitude. He would sit quietly at dawn, breathing with intention, anchoring himself before facing the storms of empire and responsibility. In those quiet moments, he trained his mind to observe rather than react. That is where strength is forged, not in the noise, but in the stillness before it. Now imagine yourself in that same discipline. You're in a meeting. Someone unfairly blames you for a mistake. Your pulse spikes. The heat rises in your chest. You want to defend yourself, to strike back. But instead, you pause. You take one breath, and then another. You look at the person calmly and say, "I understand your concern. The issue came from the system. I'll handle it." You don't defend your ego. You defend your composure. And that shift, that choice, changes everything. You've just demonstrated something rare: control. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That's the core of Stoic mindfulness. You may not control what happens, but you control the lens through which you see it. Every insult, delay, or disappointment becomes a test, not of patience, but of power. When you react, you hand your power away. When you stay still, you reclaim it. The Stoics compared the mind to a fortress. Most people leave the gates open, letting every insult, fear, and distraction storm in. The wise guard it. They decide what enters. They decide what stays. This is not passivity, it's command. Because when you control yourself, you control the battlefield. I once saw a man lose everything he'd built, his position, his title, his team, through one moment of unchecked emotion. And I've seen another rise from humiliation to honor simply because he kept his calm. Life constantly invites you to choose between reaction and response. Every time you choose the latter, you grow stronger. Mindfulness is not about floating above the world. It's about walking through it without losing yourself. It's power without noise, authority without aggression, strength without arrogance. When you embody that, respect is no longer something you chase. It's something that quietly follows you. So the next time the storm hits, remember, your breath is your anchor. Your stillness is your shield. You don't have to shout to be heard. Presence speaks louder than any voice. And from this calm foundation, we move to the next virtue, forgiveness, the art of freeing yourself from the weight that others cannot carry. Entering the fourth chapter. There comes a moment in every life when something breaks. Trust, a promise, a bond you thought would last forever. You feel it like a wound that never fully closes. Days pass, but the sting remains. You tell yourself you've moved on, yet somewhere deep inside, the anger still whispers. That's the quiet prison of resentment, and the Stoics knew how dangerous it is. They taught that forgiveness is not a gift for others. It is liberation for yourself. It is choosing freedom over chains, clarity over corrosion. Epictetus reminded us, men are disturbed not by things, but by the view they take of them. The past cannot be changed, but the meaning you attach to it can. We often imagine forgiveness as surrender, as if, by letting go, we lose some moral victory. But the opposite is true. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It's refusing to let pain dictate the rest of your life. It's looking at the scar and saying, "You no longer own me." The Stoic does not excuse injustice, but he refuses to be ruled by it. Now, here's the hardest part: forgiving yourself. The mistakes that wake you in the middle of the night, the words you wish you hadn't said, the chances you didn't take. We carry them like invisible stones, heavier with each passing year. But the Stoics saw mistakes not as signs of failure, but as lessons written in fire. Seneca once said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." To forgive yourself is to accept your humanity, to learn and to begin again. That is the essence of inner strength. Imagine a man locked in a cell for decades, yet walking out with peace in his eyes. The Stoics would call him free long before the doors opened, not because he was released, but because he refused to be enslaved by hatred. When one transcends bitterness, the oppressor loses power. Forgiveness transforms suffering into wisdom, pain into clarity. I've met people who've held on to their anger for years. They spoke of betrayal as if it had happened yesterday, their faces hardened by time, not age, by resentment. And I've seen others who have let go, whose calm feels unshakable. The difference between the two isn't in what happened to them, but in what they chose to carry. Forgiveness is not a single act. It's a discipline. It requires strength to look pain in the eye and say, "You may have touched me, but you will not define me." Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike your enemy." Each time you choose peace over bitterness, you rise above what tried to break you. So ask yourself, what have you been carrying for too long? What anger has overstayed its welcome? When you release it, you don't free them, you free yourself, because resentment is a chain you hold by choice, and the moment you let go, you walk lighter. Forgiveness is strength disguised as softness. It's clarity in disguise as mercy. It's how you turn loss into wisdom and injustice into freedom. And from this place of peace, we now move toward the next lesson, non-attachment, where true freedom begins, not by gaining more, but by needing less. At this stage, we reach one of the hardest yet most liberating truths, non-attachment. Picture yourself holding water in your hands. The tighter you grip it, the faster it slips away. That is how most people live, clinging to outcomes, possessions, and approval, only to lose peace in the process. But the Stoics knew better. They taught that strength is not found in control, but in release. The moment you stop chasing what you cannot keep, you become untouchable. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing." He meant that life will throw you off balance again and again. You can't choreograph it, only endure it with grace. Imagine pouring your heart into something, a project, a dream, a relationship, and it collapses. Most would break, trapped by disappointment. But the Stoic remains steady. He grieves the loss, yes, but he does not drown in it. His peace lies in his effort, not in the outcome. Because when your joy depends only on success, you live at the mercy of chance. But when it depends on discipline, you live in freedom. Detachment from results does not make you indifferent. It makes you powerful. You act fully, yet without chains. You do your best and let the rest unfold. Epictetus reminded us, some things are in our control and some are not. Peace begins the moment you accept that difference. Next comes material detachment. The more your worth depends on what you own, the easier it is for others to control you. Seneca warned that luxury often enslaves those who believe it liberates. True wealth, he said, is wanting less. When you are content with little, no loss can disturb you. You own your peace because nothing owns you. I once met a man who lost everything, his home, his business, even his name. But in his eyes, there was no panic, only calm resolve. They can take what I have, he said, but not who I am. That is Stoic wealth. It cannot be stolen because it lives in virtue, not possessions. Then comes the deepest attachment of all, the need for approval. Most people bend themselves to fit others' expectations, fearing rejection more than failure. But the Stoic walks another path. He moves with quiet conviction. not because others approve, but because his actions align with reason. When you stop needing to be liked, you start being respected. True confidence is not loud, it's steady. And finally, contentment. Gratitude for what is, not hunger for what's missing. Marcus Aurelius urged, "Do not indulge in dreams of having what you have not, but reckon up the chief of the blessings you do possess." When you live this way, you radiate calm strength, the kind that silences arrogance without a word. Non-attachment is not coldness, it is clarity. It allows you to walk through life engaged, but never owned. You can love without losing yourself, strive without fear, and endure without bitterness. So let go, not in defeat, but in mastery. Because when nothing outside of you controls your peace, no one outside of you can ever disrespect it. From this place of quiet strength, we now step into the next lesson, humility, the hidden mark of true greatness. From here, we step into humility, the quiet strength that needs no witness. Picture a mountain. It does not boast of its height. It doesn't demand attention, yet everyone who sees it feels its power. That is humility, silent, immovable, commanding respect without a word. The Stoics understood this truth well. Real strength is not born from arrogance, but from understanding one's limits. To recognize your imperfections isn't weakness, it's wisdom. A humble person does not seek to stand above others, nor do they chase validation. They walk through life open to learning, willing to listen, and grounded in quiet confidence. And strangely enough, that very openness makes them unshakable. Epictetus once said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." Pride closes the mind. Humility keeps it open. The wise do not pretend to know everything. They know that every person they meet holds a fragment of knowledge they do not yet possess. When you adopt this mindset, you stop competing for dominance and start growing through understanding. That shift alone changes how the world responds to you. Let me tell you a story. Years ago, I watched two colleagues debate an idea. One was brilliant, but proud, interrupting, dismissing, talking over everyone. The other was quiet, listening intently, asking questions instead of asserting answers. In the end, it was the quiet one people followed. Not because he had all the answers, but because he respected the room. That's humility in motion, influence without intimidation. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to receive without pride and let go without attachment. To him, humility wasn't about lowering himself. It was about rising above ego. A man who serves something greater than his pride will always stand taller than those enslaved by theirs. And this humility extends outward to recognizing and valuing others. When you acknowledge someone's effort, when you see their contribution and say, "I appreciate what you did," you build a bridge of respect. People who feel seen give their best. People who feel invisible withhold it. The humble create an atmosphere where greatness can grow. Another reflection of humility is service. Helping without expectation. Giving without needing recognition. The Stoics saw service as duty, a reminder that we are all connected in the shared fabric of human life. Seneca wrote, "While we teach, we learn. Every time you help another, you strengthen yourself." True leadership doesn't come from commanding others. It comes from serving them. In collaboration, humility becomes the invisible glue that holds everything together. No one succeeds alone. When you work with others instead of against them, when you celebrate their strengths instead of fearing them, respect flows naturally back toward you. Humility isn't self-denial. It's self-mastery. It's the courage to say, "I don't know," and the strength to keep learning. It allows you to move through life with grace, grounded, open, and quietly powerful. Let go of pride. Keep your mind open. Respect others not for what they give you, but for what they reveal about yourself. Because when you embrace humility, you stop trying to prove your worth and begin to embody it. And from this place of still confidence, we move to the next Stoic virtue, patience, the unseen power that separates reaction from mastery. Entering the 7th chapter, picture a seed buried in the dark earth. It does not break through the surface in a day. It endures pressure, silence, and time. That is patience, unseen but powerful. The world rushes, demands, and shouts for results. Yet those who master patience move with a strength that cannot be shaken. The Stoics understood that life is unpredictable. It bends, delays, and tests us without warning. But instead of fighting time, they learned to move with it. To them, patience was not the act of waiting. It was the art of enduring without losing control. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." Every obstacle, then, is not an interruption, it's training. Consider this. A man named Philip sits in a meeting. He's diligent, steady, respected. Suddenly, a colleague mocks him in front of everyone. The room stiffens. Pride surges in his chest. The instinct to strike back screams within him, but Philip pauses. One breath, then another. He says nothing. He looks at the man calmly, and later, when the room is empty, he approaches him privately, not with anger, but with reason. "You seemed upset earlier," he says. "If something's bothering you, let's fix it." The result? The tension dissolves. Respect rises in its place. That is Stoic patience in motion. It's not passive. It's the conscious decision to respond, not react. Because when you are patient, you are no longer controlled by emotions. You control them. You become the calm in the storm, the observer, not the victim, the master of yourself. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "What stands in the way becomes the way." The impatient see obstacles as unfair. The patient see them as teachers. Every delay becomes an invitation to grow tougher, wiser, steadier. Patience, then, is not waiting for the world to move. It is learning to stand still while the world trembles around you. Beyond conflict, patience is the key to endurance in your own journey. Most people quit not because they lack ability, but because they lack patience. They confuse slow progress with failure. The Stoics knew better, that anything of true worth unfolds slowly, like dawn breaking after the longest night. You cannot rush the sunrise. I've met people who carry frustration like a second skin. Every delay feels like an insult. Every mistake feels personal. But the wise pause. They ask, "Is this truly harming me or just testing me?" That question alone can save you years of unnecessary suffering. Patience does not mean silence in the face of injustice. It means clarity before action. It's a blade kept sharp, not drawn at every provocation. When you master it, you move through life with grace, immune to the noise, untouched by the chaos of others. So breathe. Let time work with you, not against you. The impatient chase control and lose it. The patient surrender control and find peace. And now, as we move forward, we arrive at another Stoic virtue that completes the circle: kindness, the strength that heals, unites, and earns respect without ever demanding it. Advancing to the 8th chapter, imagine this. You are standing in a world where kindness is often mistaken for weakness, where people assume that the quiet heart is fragile, that compassion is naive. Yet the Stoics knew the truth. Kindness is not softness. It is controlled strength. It is the power to remain calm when others lose themselves, to stay principled when chaos demands reaction. Real strength, they taught, does not come from dominance or aggression. It comes from the mastery of one's own nature. The man who must shout to prove his power has already lost it. The one who can speak with patience, act with fairness, and hold his ground without venom, that man commands respect effortlessly. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." It is one of the simplest yet sharpest truths ever spoken. You do not earn respect by demanding it. You earn it by embodying the values that deserve it. Kindness, then, is not an act. It's a way of being, the reflection of inner balance and discipline. Every day gives you the chance to practice it. A sincere compliment to someone who expects judgment, a quiet patience when others rush, a moment of listening when the world only wants to speak. Small gestures, yet they ripple outward, shaping not only how others see you, but how you see yourself. But kindness does not stop with others. It begins with you. Many people carry compassion outward, but cruelty inward. They forgive others easily, but never themselves. They replay mistakes like a song that won't stop, punishing themselves for being human. The Stoics saw the futility in this. The past cannot be rewritten, but it can be reinterpreted. You learn, adjust, and move forward lighter. Self-compassion is not indulgence, it's clarity. The ability to recognize, I failed, and that failure became my teacher. Think of a leader in the workplace. Two employees make the same mistake. One is met with harsh criticism, the other with a firm but understanding correction. Who grows more? Who feels trusted? The latter does. And in that trust, respect blooms. Because kindness paired with wisdom doesn't weaken authority, it strengthens it. Seneca reminded us that we are all part of one body. To harm another is to wound ourselves. To help another is to heal ourselves. When you treat people with dignity, you teach them how to treat you. And when you meet disrespect, not with rage, but with grace, you set a standard that cannot be shaken. True kindness is firm, not fragile. It does not tolerate injustice, nor does it retaliate in kind. It answers cruelty with calm assurance, not submission. It holds its line, but with gentleness. In the end, kindness changes you. It sharpens patience, deepens empathy, and stabilizes your spirit. You stop needing respect, because you already live in a way that commands it. So carry yourself with calm power. Be kind, but unyielding, compassionate, but clear. And from this balance we now turn to the final Stoic lesson, gratitude, the quiet force that transforms perception into peace and ensures that no one ever again can shake your inner strength. Entering the 9th and final chapter, imagine waking up one morning and realizing that nothing around you has changed, yet somehow everything feels different. The light seems warmer. The air feels softer, you breathe deeper. That shift is gratitude, not as a feeling but as a way of seeing. The Stoics believed that gratitude is not just a pleasant emotion, it is a discipline, a training of the mind to look at life as it is and still say, "This is enough." Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have lived your life. Now take what's left and live it properly." To the Stoic, gratitude was not blind optimism. It was realism with wisdom. It was the courage to focus on what remains instead of mourning what's been lost. You see, when we recognize and appreciate what we already have, we become unshakable. Insults lose their sting. envy loses its grip. Disrespect rolls off our shoulders like rain off stone. Gratitude doesn't erase hardship, it reframes it. It turns what we have into enough, and what we endure into strength. There's a simple practice the Stoics would have understood well. Each night, write down 3 things you are thankful for. Not grand victories, small, quiet things. A kind word, the warmth of the sun, the lesson hidden in a mistake. At first, it feels trivial, but over time, it reshapes the mind. You begin to notice goodness not because it's rare, but because you've trained yourself to see it. Seneca once said, "He is a great man who uses earthenware as if it were silver, but also as if silver were earthenware." True gratitude lies in treating the ordinary as precious and the precious as impermanent. That perspective creates balance, the calm that neither kokasisi titomon no thesis si tontos can disturb. Let me tell you something I've witnessed. I've seen people who have everything but complain about the smallest inconvenience. And I've met others who own little but seem to walk with light in their eyes. The difference isn't wealth, it's focus. One sees what's missing, the other sees what's still here. Gratitude, therefore, is not about having more, it's about being more present. Beyond reflection, gratitude must be expressed. A simple thank you carries immense power. It softens tension, repairs distance, and turns confrontation into connection. Even in conflict, acknowledging another's effort can shift the air in the room. Gratitude transforms relationships because it transforms the one practicing it. It also extends to how we live, consuming less, valuing experiences over possessions, choosing appreciation over accumulation. The Stoics knew that wealth is not measured by ownership, but by contentment. When you live with gratitude, you move through the world lighter, less defensive, more dignified. In gratitude, there is peace. In peace, there is strength. And in that strength, there is a quiet confidence that cannot be taken away. So take one final lesson from this journey. Gratitude is not the end of Stoicism. It is its beginning. It is the soil from which patience, humility, compassion, and wisdom grow. And when you live this way, you don't have to seek respect. It will find you naturally, quietly, inevitably. This is where the Stoic path leads, not to perfection, but to peace. Not to control over others, but to command over yourself. And that, my friend, is how no one will ever be able to disrespect you again. You've just explored 9 timeless Stoic lessons that reveal how true respect is never forced, but naturally earned through wisdom, composure, and quiet strength. From mindfulness to compassion, from patience to humility, each principle is a reminder that your power lies within. Not in how others treat you, but in how you choose to respond. Take a moment to reflect and share in the comments with 2 simple words. Stay calm. If this message spoke to you, subscribe to continue walking this path of inner mastery and lasting peace. Keep practicing these lessons in your daily life, and you will notice the shift. Respect will no longer be something you chase, but something you attract by the way you live. Stay grounded, stay resilient, and I'll see you in the next reflection on living with unshakable Stoic strength.